will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Marqueece Harris-Dawson,
I, Marqueece Harris-Dawson,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the State of California
and the Charter of the City of Los
and
Angeles,
the Charter of the City of Los Angeles,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Council President of the Los Angeles City Council for the City of Los Angeles.
of the duties of the Los Angeles City Council President
For the City of,
for the City of Los Angeles,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Boy, this is a big day. Thank you all so much for everything that you've given, the energies that you've brought into this room and brought to this moment. I'll begin with the person that I follow, Council President Paul Krekorian. Everyone should know that my first motion as Council President was to declare Paul Krekorian Council President Emeritus, which I expect will get a unanimous vote. This person, in the 243-year history of the City of Los Angeles, there have been few leaders who are more consequential and more critical. There are few leaders who are more consequential and more critical to the success of this city. He absolutely quietly broke out his cape and saved the city 2 years ago. And we stand here today prepared to move on to face our toughest challenges, and I am sure we will knock them out because of the foundation that you laid for us. Council President Paul Krekorian, everybody, thank you so much. I'm also happy to serve with my good friend who I watched come to the LA City Council years ago, and I sort of sat back and said, well, let's see how it goes for him, and maybe I'll do it. And he came into the council and he did exceptionally well, and we will serve alongside each other as we have done, but now in the leadership of this council, our Council President Pro Tem, Bob Blumenfield. And to each one of the members of this city council, people gave me a lot of kudos for not talking much on the mic, and they were kind, because what they didn't say is, when I get you to lunch or dinner or in a meeting, you have to listen to me wax on and on and on and on. And each of the members of this council has done that and been a part of those discussions and been open to sharing their vision for the city and open to hearing my vision for the city. So Katie, Hugo, Nithya, Curran, Tracy, Imelda, Tim, John, Heather, Eunices, Kevin, Bob, I'm missing somebody, Monica, thank you so much to all of you for your friendship and your vision for this city. A big round of applause for our amazing council, the most diverse council that we've had in lots of ways, including background, ideology, gender. We almost are at gender parity, which I'm very proud of for this Los Angeles City Council. I'd also like to thank the dignitaries who came and sat with us today. I was proud to be joined by my good friend, Councilmember Joe Buscaino. Big shout out to Joe, who was one of the people that met me at the door when I was elected and helped show me the ropes representing a bordering district. And our supervisor, Lindsay Horvath, please give her a big round of applause. A leader on homelessness and so many important issues for years and years and years, and we also knew each other long before either of us had raised our hand and taken that oath. And the leader of this city's powerful, dynamic, and inspirational labor movement, the leader of our Federation of Labor, Yvonne Wheeler. Please give her a big round of applause. Is with us today. And my home of homes in political and civic life, the mothership as we call it, one of our most dear and treasured organizations that we all help build brick by brick and block by block. We have the leadership of the Community Coalition with us today. Alberto Rotana is with us. Stand up, Alberto, let him see you. It was the voters of the 8th District who sent me to this chamber. It was your votes, council members, who put me on this dais, on the mountaintop away from the snack row with John and Eunices and Heather. And I want to thank you for your confidence in me, but I'm literally here as I reflect on this moment and the weight of it, like Hugo talked about yesterday, the weight of this moment. I reflect on the story of this city and how it intertwines with my personal story. I'm here because my grandparents, all of them, 2 of them single African-American women with kids, decided to pick up and leave the Deep South. For you young people, the Deep South is what we used to call the red states. They decided to leave the Deep South with their families and to come and make a better life here in Southern California. And they got here and they landed. And by the way, parenthetically, part's not in my notes, they didn't have to sleep in a car or in a tent or on a sidewalk when they got here. There was housing waiting for them when they arrived in the city of Los Angeles. There was housing waiting for them when they arrived in the city of Los Angeles. They got here and fell in love with the persistent and powerful sunshine, the calming ocean breezes, and the boundless opportunity to build a life and to make a difference and to see their children live better lives than they had. My mother and father were some of the original dreamers. They were brought here as minors, not on their own volition, but through the work of their parents. I can remember as a child, my brother and my cousins, sometimes we'd stay at our grandparents' house, at our grandma's house, when our parents were at work or at university or somewhere else. And in the wee hours of the moment, before we were supposed to be awake, you'd hear my grandmother rustling around the house, and you'd hear the washing machine come on, and you'd hear her humming hymns, usually gospel hymns. She'd hum, say a few words there, and hum some more, and then there would be folding of clothes. You might hear quietly the vacuum cleaner, and then after a while, if you laid there long enough, you start to smell food. You start to smell food being prepared, not just for breakfast, but throughout the day. And so by the time all of her grandkids woke up, my cousins, my brother and I, the house was ready for them to have a good day. Food was there was something to do, there were activities laid out for us, and you saw the importance of preparing for others who are coming behind you as a result of living and being with my grandfather. My dad, many people know I'm a preacher's kid. To watch my dad in the house at a time when he wasn't officially at work, but he had a phone, and you know, back in those days, the phones had cords. So he'd walk around the house with the phone on his ear, talking to various people, talking to this parishioner who lost a family member, talking to this parishioner who was excited because they got a job, another one depressed because they lost a job, a child was in trouble, a person was facing one crisis or another. And because of those conversations, by the time the weekend got there, he had shaped a service so that everybody's needs got met. And everybody together walked away with a positive experience and better off as a result of having been to church. I learned from him, including people's experience in the process of building something makes it better for everybody. And sitting here today, in addition to teaching me decorum, to stand up straight and to speak properly and to be polite, my mother, Cheryl, please stand up, Mom, let people see you. One of the many values I took from my mom is whenever we'd go over a friend's house to play or have any activity, when we were done and it was time to go, my mother would stand at the door and say, "Okay, everybody clean up. You all are going to leave this place better than you found it. Their house is going to be cleaner than it was when you got here as a result of your visit." And so from her, we learned the value of restoration, leaving things better than we found them. And later, I went on to college and then became an organizer at Community Coalition. And these values grew and deepened. As a student at Morehouse College, I sat in the very classrooms that Dr. Martin Luther King matriculated in as a college student. I learned the history and the science of social change and the history of that institution. Morehouse College, a black college, started in the spring of 1867. Slavery only ended in 1865 in the winter. So progressive whites and free African Americans thought enough of us to build an institution of higher learning so that people could prepare and engage in what would turn out to be a centuries-long freedom struggle. And I was recruited into that tradition that was prepared generations before, people thinking of us before we got there. Then on to Community Coalition. I was hired by a very energetic community organizer named Karen Bass to be a youth organizer. A round of applause for Karen Bass. And we joined the social justice movement, and part of that was great, and I thought, I'm going to come here, and there are going to be protests, and we're going to be in the newspaper, and we're going to be confronting elected officials and confronting the power establishment. And Solomon Rivera and others, they handed me a phone sheet of people that you had to call and let them know that there was going to be a meeting. And you had to put down whether they were a Y1 or a Y2 or a no. And if you had too many Y1s that people you said were going to be there and they didn't show up, you'd have some accountability. But through that process, you learn the power of including people in the process of governance, even when governance was set up in a way to dissuade their participation. So organizing renters and homeowners to make their neighborhoods safer, organizing students and parents to make the schools better, and organizing the community to get the government to deliver services, the ones that they needed and done so in a culturally competent way that will actually leave the community in a better position. So for me, those are the values that I stand at this desk with and have sat in. I think I've sat in about 4 of those chairs over there during my 9 years here at the City Council. Those are the values that I stepped to this job with. Preparation, radical preparation, preparing not just for 2028, but preparing for 2048 and 68 and 88, building the kind of Los Angeles now that we want people to inherit from us, because we inherited such an amazing, beautiful city from the people who came before us. Inclusion, making sure there's a space for everybody at the table, that all voices bring something to the discussion, and insisting upon everybody getting the opportunity to weigh in on all the big issues, both on this council, in our departments and among city employees, and amongst all Angelenos. And then lastly, restoration. All of us live in places that maybe were a little shinier when we got here than they are now. Maybe were a little more peaceful than they now, a little more peaceful before than they are now. We all have the job of restoring the city to, again, leave it at least as good, if not better, than the people left it to us. And so I believe this charge is the charge of the entire council, and folks have already gotten busy on it. Our first and most pressing challenge, as everyone knows, is the twin crisis we have that hang together and on each other of homelessness and unsheltered individuals on our streets and housing affordability. The council has already started. We've built as much or more affordable housing and permanent supportive housing and temporary shelter than any other big city in the country. But there's more we can do, and we can do it faster. One of the things I will ask this council to do through one of our committees is go and do a checkup on all of our departments that deal with homelessness. So our housing department, our sanitation department, all of those departments. None of these departments were built in a way to confront the crisis that is now before us. They've just put on their boots, strapped up, and dealt with it in the best way they could because we and the people of Los Angeles asked them to. We'll do a top-to-bottom performance audit on their homelessness work to put us in the position to give them the best chance to do the most efficient, effective job with the conditions we now see out on our streets of the city of Los Angeles. It, to me, is the first step towards solving street homelessness in our time. When we have a situation where tens of thousands of people living on our street, it literally compromises everyone's public safety. First, the people living on the street are open to all kinds of untold victimization. There are other hazards that happen as a result of that disorder. There are fires, you name it. We want to make sure we do the work to give our fire and police department the resources they need to deal with the issue that's in front of us. Council members, and there are leaders on this council that have already pushed us to reform the recruitment process for LAPD and other departments so we can staff up. The idea that we have the situation that we have and we can't hire people fast enough for good paying jobs is something we can do better on. And with the leadership of this council, I believe that we'll get it done. And also, I heard the members will also, alongside fire and police, we want to build up something this city has pioneered for the world. By the way, people come from other parts of the world to study our unarmed and community crisis intervention programs, whether it's CIRCLE or the unarmed mobile crisis response, our mental health response. Folks study that, and like Councilmember Rahman said earlier today, we need to scale them. In this year's budget process, which I thank Council President for putting me on the Budget Committee, you saw almost every district ask for more of those kinds of responses, and we just didn't have the capacity. So we'll form an ad hoc committee on unarmed crisis responses, and we'll ask members of this council to get together to organize those programs, to see what we need to do to scale them, and to help us go get the resources to do that. So that in this city, yes, please. So that in this city, when you see someone that needs help, you can call someone who can give them the kind of help that they need. Because we all see it, we drive these streets, we're stopped at stoplights, and we see people literally in crisis. And there's not always somebody that we can call. We want to create an environment where in the city of Los Angeles, if people are on our streets and they need help, assistance, or intervention, we can deliver that, and we can deliver it in an appropriate way for someone who can address the problem that we're facing. Connected to our houselessness crisis and our housing affordability crisis is the issue of wages and working conditions for working people in this city. Southern California is now and has been for some time the second most economically productive metropolitan region on planet Earth. In that kind of situation, we should not have a circumstance where people work all day and can't make a basic living. At the same time, some of us are fortunate enough to be entrepreneurs or to figure out how to start a small business. And all too often, our city's regulations and administrative processes make that goal slightly out of reach because things take too long, processes are too confusing, and they're often contradictory. This department wants you to do this thing, which is the opposite of this thing. And when you go to that department, they say, well, you didn't do this the right way. And you go to the other department, and they say, you did it the other way. We will redeploy our traditional Economic Development and Opportunity Committee to look specifically at worker issues and the issues faced by small business people with the regulatory system in the city of Los Angeles. We also want to make sure Los Angeles remains a big city leader on climate change, promoting cleaner energy, greener transportation, sustainable water policy, and continually leading the way in lessening our reliance on fossil fuel energy. There are so many other things that we need to do and can do in this city, but we believe these things serve as the bedrock for the work that's in front of us at this moment in history. In just 4 years from now, the Olympic Summer Games and Paralympic Summer Games will come to Los Angeles. And the work that's done in these on this council by the 15 members, the mayor, our city attorney, and our controller, will be on display for the world to see. I spent time at the Olympics or the Paralympics just a few weeks ago. I was there with our supervisor who's joined us. She's my supervisor because the 8th district is all in her district, and she's Supervisor Holly Mitchell is with us here. As well as our state senator, Lola Cuevas. Please wave. We were, the supervisor and I and Carrie and Katie and Imelda and Kern were in Paris for the Olympic Games. I know our chairwoman, Tracy Park, and our council president and Monica Rodriguez were there earlier, and you saw the awesome work that they did. And you got to see up close the meaning of the Olympics and the project that it is, originally designed to promote peace and harmony and development among humankind. In fact, the Olympic spirit literally says the goal of Olympism is to place sport at the service of harmonious development of humankind with a view towards promoting a peaceful society concerned with the preservation of human dignity. And when you go to the Olympics, among other things, and there was a lot to see, what you see is people from all parts of the world speaking all different languages, eating all different kinds of food, serving different gods, loving different, living differently, all together, thriving, moving towards a common goal. There is no greater place on planet Earth where that spirit exists than our own city of Los Angeles. When you go into the Olympic Village, you see a place where everybody's basic needs are met. It doesn't matter if you're from the richest country or the poorest country, or you're at the home country, or you're from the other side of the globe. Everybody's basic needs are provided for, and everybody lives indoors in quality housing, has access to good food, and has access to medical care. That can be the city of Los Angeles permanently. You watch as language, ideological, gender, religious, and other barriers melt away in the cause of human development. And I want to share a little bit of a story here. So I'm old enough to have been around for the '84 Olympics. And members, you don't have to remind us that you weren't born yet for that. But there was a track star named Carl Lewis. And Carl Lewis was a hero in Southern California because he trained at the Santa Monica Track Club, even though he was from Texas. And he was holding the banner for the United States in track and field. And Carl Lewis would get out there and ran, and I mean, it was a beautiful sight to see. I mean, he ran like a cross between a machine and a gazelle, just smooth. His feet barely touched the ground as he glided past, and he broke records in '84, and he won all the gold medals and just was the star of the Olympics. But the beauty of the Olympic movement is this. By staying together, that wasn't a situation where the country said, well, I didn't win the race, so I'm not racing anymore. I'm not coming to the Olympics anymore. People kept racing, and they kept racing, and they kept racing. And this year in Paris, if you take the time that Carl Lewis finished with, which was a world record at that moment, if he ran the same time in 2024, he would have finished last. His time was a second behind the person that finished the race last. What does that mean? It means that the Olympics aren't about lifting these people up and putting these people down. It's about pushing the cause of humanity forward. And if we push each other and we hang together, we can do things that at this moment don't seem possible and tomorrow will seem like old hat. That is why the Olympic spirit is at home here in the city of Los Angeles. And so I'll close by saying to all my fellow Angelenos, your local government is ready to stand and deliver the city that you deserve. To my colleagues, let's do this and do it good. And to the world, come visit. We'll be prepared for you. Thank you all so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here at LA City Hall. I feel today is a big day for our city in its history, both looking back on where we've been and where the city is going. We've got big problems to solve and a big party to prepare for in 2028. So I'm very grateful to my colleagues and to the 40-some thousand people who work for the city of LA to work to deliver the kind of local government Angelenos deserve. Thank you. Sure.
Okay, great. Well, I have a question about a motion from 2019 by Mike Bonnet, and it was seconded by you to create a commission on lived experience with homelessness, and it's expiring in November. And
the commission is expiring?
No, the motion to create the commission hasn't gone anywhere. Right? And so Ruth Lisser, who is unhoused, she sometimes calls in through remote comment. She has been organizing some neighborhood councils to try to do resolutions to get this taken up.
That's certainly something. I actually had lost track of that motion, so it's certainly something that we can work with the chair of Housing and Homelessness, Nithya Raman, to revisit. I think, today in my speech I talked about inclusion, radical inclusion, making sure there's a place at the table for everybody to be involved. And on homelessness, there are no better experts than the people who've been through it and who have lived experience. So thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Have you had any thoughts about how to make sure that sometimes those commissions, maybe people sit on it, but not a lot of people might take it as seriously as they should be taking it? How, do you have any ideas?
Well, our ideas are, just like you recommended somebody who's already has a track record for involvement, those are the best people to do because they already are accustomed and have a lot to say and a lot of input. So that's the best place to start. But this kind of thing to me is all about relationships. If we're putting on someone because we saw their resume, that's one thing, particularly in this kind of committee. It's another thing if we know them, we've seen them in action. Yes, sir.
Council President, it was mentioned today that you are the 27th Council President.
Yes, I learned that today.
Are there models from past Council Presidents who you will intend to build upon?
Well, I learned from, I served with 3 Council Presidents, and I certainly watched, going back to Council President Ferraro and Padilla and Garcetti. I think you take something from all of them. But the most important thing is to emphasize relationships amongst the council and collaborative work and avoiding the falling into the ditch of ideological struggle or locked or prolonged difference. Really trying to, again, as folks said today, focus on the things that we agree on and we actually have the capacity to move forward. And then creating space for our differences, but handling those differences in a way that allow us to work together on the next thing the next day.
You made a lot of references in your speech out in the chamber to the Olympics and some analogies to the way that this city could be perceived during those games.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you for LA to be ready for the Olympic Games in 2028?
Well, there's ready in a lot of ways. First, we have to have the energy to be ready. I mean, one of the things that was interesting about Paris is how Parisians related to the visitors. LA is such a big city. A big event can happen here, Super Bowl or anything, and the average Angeleno lives their life as if it isn't happening. And I think the Olympics are a little bit different. And so I think we want to give as many Angelenos the opportunity to get involved as possible. The second level of preparation is just our infrastructure. So moving that many people around the city that smoothly in a way where, you don't travel from Italy to be in the Olympics and spend all your time on Southern California freeways. We got to get ahead of that because we know that's what will happen if we don't. And then third, we got to make sure our communities and our businesses, small businesses especially, are positioned to take advantage of this, what will end up being about an $11 billion investment in Southern California for something that effectively lasts a month. We want those investments to keep giving dividends to our small businesses, to our communities, to our neighborhoods long after the Olympics are gone.
You mentioned several different issues in your speech about,
things that the city is facing right now. Councilwoman Rahman mentioned the constituents don't care about how government works. They just want to see the results. How do you make sure that you work with your fellow council members to get things done ultimately, and what issues do you want to tackle first?
Well, homelessness and housing affordability are the big ones, and fortunately, we already have a lot of momentum on those things. We know some things that work in spots. We know some things that work but need a little bit of tinkering. So that's where we'll focus most of our energy. There isn't a member of the council that is not focused on homelessness. So that's an important that's an important starting place. Again, even though some folks emphasize mental health, some folks emphasize RVs, some folks emphasize interim housing, some folks emphasize permanent supportive housing. The point is we're all focused on getting that problem solved.
Just on a personal level, is the presidency something that you thought of? What does it mean for you today to have this role?
Well, I think it's a responsibility, but it's a responsibility that I frankly feel called to. Like, you got to step up. I'm one that has lots of opinions about what the city's doing right and what the city's not doing, and it's one thing to be on the periphery and comment on it. It's another thing to step to the plate to try to do it, and that's what it means to me personally.
Do you think there's a way, and forgive me if I'm editorializing here, to improve the tenor of these meetings, not the collegiality among the members?
I do, yes. Yeah, the answer to your question is yes. We're already working closely with the city attorney to go back to the courts to see if we can get some relief. Much of what you see go on in the council is the result of lawsuits that the city lost. And so now the legal advice that we get is, don't say anything or else you're going to have to write a big check. And so I think now that we've seen what that means and how that's played out, I think we can go back to the judiciary and challenge that and say, this is what your ruling means in real time. Can you help us arrive at a better solution?
Are you talking about all the racist and misogynistic?
Yeah, racist is a small part of it, but yes, it's racist, it's misogynistic, it is anti-Semitic, it is, you name it, we get it in that chamber.
Councilmember, one of the most important things a president does is pick members for committees. What's going to be the driving force for you in decisions in terms of who is on what committee?
Well, thank you for that question. I think the big thing is on committee is we want to be able to germinate the best ideas by having people with differences on committees on purpose. And so that is something that we want to pay a lot of attention to. And that's how we'll shape the committees. One, certainly where people have expertise, where members have expertise, and they were doing this before, or they have a lot of experience, we want to take a look at that. But also, we do want to take it at regional diversity, but also ideological diversity on our committees, as well as gender and race and all those things.
Thank you. Councilman, on a personal note, have you taken this moment in? You're LA through and through, born and raised.
We're still taking it. We're still taking it in. I talked about it in my speech, and I had to cut it off because I was getting emotional. I just think about my grandparents, who my grandfather hitchhiked here because he had a scholarship to USC. And, I talked about my grandmothers did not have to live outdoors, but my grandfather journaled a lot. So, where his stories might have gone in one ear at the other, I can read them. Now, he lived in his car for 3 nights on the corner of Jefferson and Avalon, which was a vacant lot. And there wasn't, the next thing he could see from Jefferson, from his car at Jefferson and Avalon, was the university at that time. So if you know the geography of South LA now, that's that means the city's come a long way. And him getting a degree in business there, thinking like, oh, I'm in California, I'm going to work for the big insurance companies, only to find out that the insurance companies didn't hire black people. And so he could have left at that time and said, I'm going to go back to the South where I know at least I can go work for what was called a colored insurance company at the time. He stayed here and put his shingle out and started a business and raised a family. So again, like I said, I took it out of my speech because, as you can see, I can go on and on about it. But I mostly think about them and the risk that they took and the gamble that they made on themselves and on Southern California.
I have a seating chart question. Normally the council sits in alphabetical order. I see today Krekorian is sandwiched between Kevin De Leon and Angelenos and Hernandez. Did one of them request that they have a buffer?
You would have to ask the clerk about that.
But was it in any way you're doing?
Yeah, we don't. I don't set the alphabet, so no.
So it wasn't you?
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Martine?
Thank you all so much.